Is going on, everybody? It is that time of the year again, the best time of the year, March. And you guys already know we're going to be giving you guys our March Madness bracket. This is going to be my official bracket that I enter into pools. Speaking of March Madness pools, I'm hosting my own pool. That's going to be on the first link of the description down below. $500 prize pool. It's going to be $350 to first place, $75 to second, and $75 to third. And you guys can DM me over on X if you're interested in joining. It's a $20 entry. So make sure, if you guys are interested, to DM me on X. But without further ado, let's get into our March Madness predictions. I would consider myself to be a college basketball guru. I watch all the games. I'm a fanatic. And last year I predicted 3 of the 4 Final Four teams correctly, and I had NC State in the Final Four if you guys want to go check out last year's March Madness predictions. So I would consider myself to be an expert, and I'm going to give you guys my picks. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So let's start it out with the South region, where we're obviously going to advance Auburn to win the first round. We've only seen 2 16s beat a 1 in history, and I don't think Auburn is going to be that team that falls. They have been so dominant all season. Up next, we have a very interesting matchup against 2 teams that many people say were underseeded. Louisville, a team in which had just 7 losses this whole season, had won 11 of their last 12 games, and a team that just got second place in the ACC tournament, and they're an 8 seed, which is super surprising. They are number 10, I believe it is, in the AP poll, which should put them at a 3 seed. And they are an 8 seed. This is a team that I think is vastly underrated. I think that Louisville could definitely win this game and possibly pull off an upset in the next round. We know how good Coach Pat Kelsey has done, bringing in so many transfers. Kason Pryor dominant down low. We know how explosive and versatile Chucky Hepburn is. Rain Smith might make it back. They're dominant three-point shooters. So give me the Ville to advance over Creighton. Creighton not as dominant as they were last year. Obviously, losing a lot of players from last year. So give me Louisville. Now we have an interesting one between Michigan and UC San Diego. This is a game which is super hyped, and a lot of people are going to be picking the UC San Diego 12 seed. And I myself think that that is what I'm leaning towards right now. If you look at 12 seeds who have beaten 5 seeds, 70% of the time since 2005, that 12 seed has had a top 30 margin of victory and a net rating higher than their average. And Michigan is a team where they are a very slow tempo team. They don't score a lot of points. UC San Diego is 6th in margin of victory, and they have a projected 8 seed according to the net. So I like the matchup overall for UC San Diego. They've been dominant this whole season, had a great win, huge win against UC Irvine, and people were debating if they get in, if they lost, if they get an at-large as maybe a 14, but they proved everyone wrong, winning that one. First year in Division I, and it is going to be their first tournament win. Give me UC San Diego to advance over the Big Ten tournament champs. I do love Dusty May, and I think if Vlad Golden gets hot, Michigan can maybe pull off an upset. We know Dusty May made the Final Four with FAU a few years ago, but UC San Diego is looking good to me, and I like them to move on. Now we have Texas A&M and Yale, and this is another big upset that I'm seeing. I do think Texas A&M is very vulnerable of an upset. They play a very slow-paced game, and on offense, they are not a stout team. Obviously, they're top 10 in defensive efficiency, according to KenPom. Yale is a team where they are within the top 30 of margin of victory. They are a fast tempo team. Obviously, a huge win against Cornell today. They are hot. I just can't take myself, and I can't bring myself to convince myself to pick Yale here. Give me Texas A&M. I'm sticking with the Aggies to move on. Now we have Ole Miss and the winner of San Diego State and UNC. Ole Miss is a super slow team. They are below 300th in adjusted time. We know the teams that are super slow paced lose in March, especially 11/6 is San Diego State and UNC. UNC is a team that's 1-15 in quad one games. Surprised they got in. A lot of people were questioning it. But I think San Diego State will advance against UNC. And I think San Diego State has a very good chance at advancing over Ole Miss. San Diego State, a team that has more experience, a coach who made the Final Four 2 years ago, a team that made the Final Four 2 years ago. Nick Boyd is heating up, and we know how good he was at FAU to bring them to the Final Four 2 years ago. This team has experience. They're deep. They aren't the oldest team of them all. Obviously, the Lamont Butler loss was a huge hurt, but give me SDSU to move on over Ole Miss. Now we have Iowa State and Lipscomb. Lipscomb is a team that, I don't really love. They haven't had any big wins, but they haven't really had any big losses. They haven't beaten a team that's too good. However, they're in the top 30 of margin of victory, which is a huge positive. Iowa State's on a bit of a cold streak right now. They've lost a lot of close games. I do think Iowa State is going to win against Lipscomb, but this is another hot upset I see being picked. Now we have Marquette and New Mexico, and without a question here, Marquette is going to win this game. They were clearly underseeded. I really like this Marquette team, and I think they should beat New Mexico, no problem. Michigan State and Bryant. Bryant, a very hot team right now, had a huge win yesterday to get into the tournament, but Michigan State is just so good on defense, top 5 in defensive efficiency. Bryant was one of my 15 seeds, the 15 seed I am highest on. If I were to pick a 15, which I'm not today, it would be Bryant, and I just don't see them winning against Michigan State, so give me the Spartans to move on. Now let's move on to the second round, the round of 32 in the South, and Auburn and Louisville is a matchup that I think we could see an upset on. It's just, how is Louisville going to recover from the Duke game yesterday? Duke's defense was able to fully trap them. And Auburn is a team that I think is going to be able to trouble Louisville, because if you look at what hurts Louisville, it is size. Louisville is a smaller team when you look at them on paper, and Auburn is a team where they are an old, deep, experienced team. When you look at the Tigers roster, their average age is older than the Oklahoma City Thunder. Johni Broome, a 6'10 giant who is not going to let anything go past him. He's super duper efficient, and I think that he is the best player in college basketball all around on both sides of the ball. When you look at the best scorer, obviously not him, but when you factor in offense and defense, Johni Broome is an amazing player. Baker Mazara and Miles Kelly, the transfer from Georgia Tech, they're also old, they're deep. And I like Auburn slightly here in this one. They are the number 1 overall seed for a reason. And Louisville was one of the teams that I had in the Final Four in my bracketologies. I just think Auburn is too good. But I will be rooting for Louisville. Love the Ville fan base, and shout out to Louisville. UC San Diego and Texas A&M. As badly as I want to take UC San Diego to the Sweet 16, I am going to rock with A&M to advance over UC San Diego. I think overall, when you look at this matchup, UC San Diego is a team in which they haven't played anyone. The only tournament team that they have faced is San Diego State, which is in their region, and they lost that one. I don't think they're going to pull off back-to-back wins against top 25 teams. I think Texas A&M is very is looking for a lot of revenge from last year, in which we saw them fight, give it their all against Houston last year. We see Wade Taylor coming back, showing how much it means to him when he could be transferring to anywhere else in the country or going to the draft. I like Texas A&M. I think Buzz Williams as a coach overall is not the best coach, but it will be enough to pass UC San Diego. Iowa State and San Diego State is going to be an interesting matchup. I might pull the trigger here, but overall, I like Iowa State to advance in that one. Their best guard, which is something that I heard today, is going to be injured. However, I heard that he's actually now going to be questionable, so he'll be playing for Iowa State overall. And when you look at this Iowa State team, they're an explosive team on offense. They have improved so much this year's offense to last year's offense. And I mentioned that Gilbert might be hurt, their best player, Keyshawn Gilbert, but no, even if he is, I do think that this team is deep enough with Curtis Jones to step up and score points. They do love to score, and they're a team that I really like. Joshua Jefferson, the big guy there, he's also a more athletic and explosive big guy who you can give him a lob at the perimeter and he'll back you down. I just don't know if their defense is going to be able to hold up against how good of a defense San Diego State is. They're super disciplined, San Diego State. I just like Iowa State to slightly squeak past them. Michigan State and Marquette. I'm going to take the Spartans here. We saw Marquette and Michigan State. I believe the matchup was flipped a couple years ago where Michigan State was the 7, Marquette was the 2. And Michigan State won that game, and it was overall due to coaching at the end. I think the Michigan State coaching staff is just something that is remarkable. Tom Izzo, what he has done for the program is something that Michigan State fans should cherish because he's not going to be there for that much longer. So the Spartans, I really like them. I think they're a great defensive team. We saw that play of Atkins made, Jaden Atkins. Apologies. And I think that they're a team that's physical, gritty. Obviously, Richardson and Trey Holman are guys who play so tough on both sides of the ball. And they are hot in March, and March is Izzo's month. So I like the Spartans there. Auburn and A&M, I'm going to take Auburn to advance in that one. I think the Tigers are a team in which they're just overall talent-wise better than A&M. We saw in the regular season when these two teams met earlier, which was a game in which was predicted to be more of a close one. A&M was a top 7 team at one point in the season, and when Auburn faced them earlier this year, we saw Auburn come out in one of them, and then Texas A&M, however, was able to defend their ground against Auburn at their home court. But Auburn did have injuries in that one, and I believe it was 1-1 on the season. Could be wrong. They might have only faced once. But I think that Auburn's going to be looking for revenge from what I just mentioned. So give me the Tigers. And then I like the Spartans to move on against Iowa State. I think defensively, Iowa State's offense is not good enough. And I mentioned how good they are. But I don't think their offense and their defense is good enough together to beat how balanced of a team Michigan State is, because Iowa State has had trouble defending all season, which is unlike them. And then give me Michigan State to move on to the Final Four. In this matchup, what I'm looking for is matchups, and I really like the matchup that we're going to see. I think Michigan State can easily be able to defend Johni Broome. They have the perfect matchup in Jackson Kohler, who is one of the best defenders, pretty good shot blocker, and someone who can steal the ball that we've seen be able to cause turnovers is Jeremy Fears on Michigan State. And Fears is a guy where he can make the play and he can lead Michigan State to a win. So give me MSU to the Final Four. Now let's move down over to the West region where we will be seeing the one-seeded Florida Gators take on Norfolk State. I'm going to take Florida in that one. I really think that the Gators overall are just going to demolish Norfolk State. And it's not going to be close. But shout out to Norfolk State. We see them every single year in the tournament. They keep getting a 16 seed. I wonder if the committee will be convinced if they can play a close one. If Norfolk State can maybe get a 15 or, if they have a great regular season, maybe even a 14. Feel bad for them that they keep getting the 16, but possibly could just be about competition in general. UConn and Oklahoma. This is a game in which is going to be very fun to watch. A very, very good matchup. But Oklahoma is hot right now. We saw them fight till the end against UConn. Against Kentucky, and they beat Georgia in a game in which they had to win. They're a very good team under pressure. And I think that they're hot at the right times. People got mistaken for how they played in conference, but at the end of conference play, they really turned it on. So give me the Sooners in that one. And then this is a close one. I believe the line came out in Colorado State is 3-point favorites, which is super surprising to me. But they did steal a bid. They did win the Mountain West. And Memphis is a team where they went 29-5, won their conference, was excellent in quad one games, beat Michigan State, beat UConn, and Memphis is a team overall that can win big games. I love the way they play. Even with Tyrese being hurt, I think that PJ Haggerty is able to step up. Dane Danger in the front court is going to be able to dominate down low, get every rebound that they can in this one. So give me the Tigers. Grand Canyon and Maryland. This is a very interesting matchup because Grand Canyon is a team that I was high on. I picked them to the Sweet 16 last year. They made the tournament 4 years in a row, and they return a lot of players from last year. Tyon Grant Foster deciding to come back and not transfer elsewhere, where he could have went to anywhere else in the country, but he stuck with the Antelopes. And Grand Canyon is a team where I could see a big 13/4 in this one. There's not much that I know from Maryland. They're a little bit inconsistent, and I'm very surprised that they got a 4. I think Louisville should be in this 4 spot playing Grand Canyon. I think the matchup is very favorable for Grand Canyon. Tyon Grant Foster. Overall, Bryce Drew has proven he can win in March, and we don't see that from Maryland. They're not usually in the madness, so give me Grand Canyon. Drake in Missouri. Drake has been a team that I've loved the whole season, from winning the event in Orlando where they beat Vanderbilt in the final. They have Power 5 wins themselves. They are a 3-loss team, and people have been talking for them for 2 months, and they have not fallen off. Drake's going to beat Missouri, no problem. Texas Tech and UNC Wilmington. Give me the Red Raiders. UNC Wilmington is a good 14 seed. Texas Tech is cold. That is one of the upsets, or if you want to ask me what an upset is for a 14-3, that's one of them, but I'm not going to pull the trigger here. And then we have Kansas and Arkansas. This is a game where I'm loving Arkansas all the way. Boogie Fland is coming back from injury, and John L. Davis, someone who made the Final Four, has experience. This is his time. This is when he plays to the best of his abilities. So give me Arkansas in this one. Then we have the St. John's against Omaha. I like St. John's here. I think that their offense is not ideal for a 2 seed. We'll get back to them in a bit when they play in the second round. But I like St. John's over Omaha. Now we have Florida and Oklahoma, and give me the Gators to advance over Oklahoma. Oklahoma is a team where I mentioned about Fears and Moore earlier, their 2 main scorers. It's just without those 2, it's where do you go after that? That one kid is an excellent 3-point shooter that I believe his name is Miles. I forget exactly, but I overall think that Oklahoma just doesn't have enough, but I could definitely see it. I could definitely see Oklahoma winning this one. Memphis and Grand Canyon. Now, Memphis, I mentioned how dominant they've been. Colby Rogers, another guy I forgot to mention, who is a great playmaker and is able to make plays in Memphis. I just don't know why they're a 5 seed. I think they're as good as a 2 seed, and their wins back that up. So give me the Tigers over Florida in that one. And then we have Drake against Texas Tech. I mentioned Texas Tech is cold and Drake is hot. And I did some digging and research here about both teams, and it stands out that Drake is actually a very good matchup for Texas Tech. In 81% of 11 over threes, the 11 has been in the top 80 in both defensive and offensive efficiency in every 11 over 3. And the 3 seed, which is Texas Tech, has had a low vulnerability defense, which would be outside of the top 20, which is matchup for both. Sturts, amazing guard, amazing player overall. He reminds me of what they had last year in DeVries. So give me the Drake Bulldogs, I think it is, to move on against Texas Tech. Arkansas and St. John's. And here's where it's going to get a little bit fun. I want to pick Arkansas so bad, and I could easily see Arkansas winning. And I think I'm going to pull the trigger here. I like Arkansas to upset St. John's in the second round. That's going to be my big pick of the bracket. So give me Arkansas to beat St. John's. Now we have Florida and Memphis, and I'm really thinking that Memphis could win this. I just think Florida's too strong. Elijah Martin, another player who made the Final Four a couple years ago, is probably the most explosive and dynamic player. He can drive downhill. He's a 6'2" guy who can dunk, and that explains itself alone. So give me the Gators. And then we have Arkansas and Drake. And as much as I want to pick Drake, I think I'm going to roll with Drake to move on against Arkansas. I think Drake is going to be able to stop Arkansas, their offense overall. I think Drake will be able to stop Arkansas's offense, and I think that overall Arkansas can sometimes just, their shots don't go in sometimes. It's hard to explain, and if Drake is locked in for a full 60, I could see them upsetting Arkansas and making it to the Elite 8. I will be rooting for Arkansas, though, and I do think that they have a chance, but give me the Drake Bulldogs. And then that is a huge upset, a huge team that I'm going to be taking to the Elite 8, but their run is going to end here. I like the Gators to be my second team in the Final Four. And now let's move on to the East region. So in the East region, the 1 seed Duke is going to advance against American. Don't know why I clicked Oregon, but I think they're going to beat Liberty either way. Liberty's too small of a team overall, and I like Oregon here. Baylor over Mississippi State. Mississippi State is so inconsistent, and you can't trust that in March unless they go on an absolute run. It's just, if I take Mississippi State in this one, it's going to be a huge risk, because if Mississippi State gets past Baylor, I think they could get past Duke. They are that weird and that inconsistent to predict. So, but I'm still going to take Baylor in that one. Give me Arizona over Akron. And to explain a little bit more, Baylor is more of that team that's steady all season. They're not as inconsistent. VJ Edgecombe is a player who's going to be going to the draft next year, and I think that he's going to give it his all before that, and this is his last chance to do so. BYU and VCU, why did they match both these teams up against each other? I don't know why. I wish I had the answer. But overall, I still think that BYU is too strong for VCU. BYU is a team where they had a great Big 12 tournament run. They are a team that I should say has been underseeded a little bit, but I like BYU over VCU. Wisconsin, bad loss today, but I still think they squeaked past Montana. And then I really like this St. Mary's team. They're a team that is one of my favorite teams right now. So give me St. Mary's to beat Vanderbilt. They are top 20 in KenPom, and I think that St. Mary's will upset Vanderbilt in that one. And then give me Alabama to beat Robert Morris. I almost took the upset. I almost took Robert Morris. Robert Morris is a team that is super fast. Alabama is one of those slower teams, but give me Alabama. I almost slipped up saying Robert Morris, but give me Bama. Now we have Duke and Baylor, and I'm going to roll with Duke, especially with Cooper Flagg being back. Colin Knuppel is someone who I love watching. Guy who can drive downhill, who you could kick out to for three. Tyrese Proctor, the overall leader, he came back. He gave Jon Scheyer his trust, and now look at where Duke is now. Could have arguably been the number one overall seed. I thought they should have been, but overall, we're still going to take Duke over Baylor. Oregon and Arizona. I'm going to take Arizona to advance in that one. Now we have BYU and Wisconsin, and I really want to take BYU over Wisconsin, but I am going to take Wisconsin over BYU. I think Wisconsin is a team in March who can make it far. And then I'm going to take... This is a tough one. I do not want to take 2 sevens over 2s, but I'm feeling... I don't want to take 2 seeds to lose in the second round. I just really like the matchup here with St. Mary's. Alabama is a super slow team. St. Mary's is a team where I think they could pull off the upset. So give me St. Mary's over Alabama. Now we have Duke and Arizona. And I think Duke overall is just too good for Arizona. Although the Wildcats have been so good after their horrible start, they were outside of brackets after the first couple weeks of the season, but then they just won. And great turnaround from Tommy Lloyd. I think the team's going to be happy with the Sweet 16 run. And St. Mary's, this is where their run comes to an end. Wisconsin's going to beat St. Mary's with a 3/7. And then I like Duke to beat Wisconsin and move on to the Final Four, because I think that overall the defensive effort and the defensive play from Duke is way better than Wisconsin's, and we saw that as Duke won their championship and had one of the best defensive performances I've ever seen. And and Wisconsin wasn't able to do so. They lost their championship game today. So up next, we have a match. Up next, we have the Midwest, and we're going to take Houston over Suey. Gonzaga and Georgia. Wow, this is a game that I didn't want to have to pick. Gonzaga, they also have underperformed this whole season. But I think that when they played in the tournament, they showed that they are the old Gonzaga. They got out-rebounded by 15, shot 1 for 16 from 3 in the championship, and even Coach Mark Few said they played bad. They still were able to win, and I think that they're going to be better than ever so when the tournament comes. So give me the Zags. Next, I like McNeese to upset Clemson. Clemson is a very slow team. They are 327th in pace. 5 seeds that are super slow tend to lose. McNeese State is top 25 in the KenPom right now. They're a high net team. This is their year. Give me McNeese. And then I'm going to take Purdue to slightly get the win over High Point. However, I could see an upset happening here. Up next, we have Illinois and the winner of Texas and Xavier. And I'm going to take Texas. I'm going to take Texas to beat Xavier. Texas won 2 games in their conference tournament to get in against Kansas State and Texas A&M. I think that they have one of the best players in the country in Trey Johnson, Arthur Kaluma, super dominant down low, and he knows what it's like going deep in the tournament. Kentucky and Troy, this is a matchup where I want to take Troy badly, but I am going to stick with the Wildcats in that one. Now we have UCLA and Utah State. And this is a game where UCLA is a bit confusing to me. I feel like they were a bit overseeded if you had to describe them. But I'm going to take UCLA over Utah State. The Mountain West tends to underperform in March. And for that reason, I like UCLA. And then Wofford is a 15 seed where they are higher than their net rating. They are super fast, and Tennessee is super slow. But I'm still going to take Tennessee in that one. Now, when you look at Texas and Kentucky, the last time they did indeed play, and I'm going to jump to this one, Texas won that game, and I really like this 11/3, so give me Texas in that one. Houston and Gonzaga. At first, I thought Gonzaga, but then I erased it. I thought to myself that Houston can win this game. They will win this game. They are better defensively and more disciplined than Gonzaga. So give me the Cougs in that one. McNeese State and Purdue. This is where I'm going to take McNeese in the upset. I mentioned that Purdue, they are not a 4 seed. They should not be a team on the 4 line. They're super slow. They're without Edey. Trey Kaufman-Renn is an excellent big man, however, and they have some amazing 3-point shooters from the perimeter in Braden Smith. But I'm going to take McNeese in that one. Now we have a game of UCLA and Tennessee, and without much question, I'm going to take Tennessee to move on in that one. Now we have Houston and McNeese, and I want to pick McNeese again, just like how I wanted to take Drake, but I'm going to stick with the Cougars to beat McNeese. And then we have Tennessee and Texas, and I'm going to take Tennessee to slightly win that one. They just did beat Texas. They are a great defensive team. We know what Zakai Ziegler can do. So you meet Tennessee. And yet again, I think Tennessee's run is going to end in the Elite Eight. I don't think they've ever made the Final Four. Rick Barnes is getting blamed for that. So give me Houston to beat Tennessee. Now in our Final Four, we have a 2 seed and 3 1 seeds. I very much so do believe that this could happen. And in my Final Four, I am going to start with this first matchup in San Antonio. Going to be a great Final Four. It's going to be between Michigan State and Florida. Michigan State, super good defensively. Don't have the best scores, but super physical. Have a great coach. And I think they could win. While Florida, more of that offensive, dynamic offensive team who can score points. They have the guys in Clayton and in Martin. And I think that Florida overall might be the better offensive team. But I think that Michigan State can be able to stop this Florida offense. So it's going to be really close. But I think Florida's been the more dominant team all season. So I like UF in that one. And then we have Duke and Houston in our other Final Four matchup. And I think that because Duke has the overall better team all around, then Houston is as I mentioned a top 5 defensive team. It's just they're gonna be in a game in which Kelvin Sampson is going to have to coach out of his mind. Colin Knuppel is going to be scoring on this defense, and I don't know how this Duke offense can be stopped. I could see it, but I'm going to go with Duke in that one. And now we have a finals of Florida and Duke. And this is a game that the whole country would love to see, would have great views. Two head coaches that are younger head coaches, that are great head coaches, and a matchup in which that's going to be so much fun to watch. Two teams that weren't expected to be this good at the start of the season, but are. And we're going to have the Cooper Flag and the Duke Blue Devils against Elijah Martin's Florida team. I think Florida is more balanced, as I just mentioned. Duke is second in offense and fourth in defense, which is some solid stats. But in March, you got to go with your gut, and you got to go with the hottest team. And Florida is going to win the national championship. And we're going to say it's going to be 81-76. That would be absolutely a masterclass to watch. So fun to watch. And if I were to add that up, 81 plus 76, that's going to give us 81 plus 76, 11 plus 9 plus 7 is going to give us 16. So 161 points are going to be scored. And that is our bracket. Again, make sure you enter the bracket pool. That'll do it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed the bracket. Drop a comment down below your thoughts, and that'll do it for today's video.